Welcome to the deep dive.
Hello, everyone.
Today we are exploring a theme that honestly touches absolutely everyone, no matter who you are or what you do for a living.
Right. It's truly universal.
Yeah, we're talking about resilience, public vulnerability, and really the hidden costs of a very high-profile life.
And we have a seriously fascinating stack of sources in front of us today.
We really do. We're pulling from recent entertainment news articles, a really insightful psychological breakdown from Grazia magazine, some, well, notoriously sharp celebrity gossip columns.
Very sharp.
Yeah, and direct quotes from a very recent, highly publicized live performance.
Which is going to anchor this whole discussion.
Exactly, because our mission for you today is clear. We're not just here to, casually chat about celebrity gossip or recount old headlines.
No, not at all.
Instead, we're using a surprisingly raw, completely unscripted confession from a global superstar as a real-time case study.
We want to look at the actual mechanics of how a person goes about rebuilding their life when everything seems to be falling apart.
Especially when the entire world is watching your every move.
Which just magnifies the pressure exponentially.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our subject today is Jennifer Lopez.
Yes.
She recently opened up during a Las Vegas residency about a specific moment right after her 2014 divorce from Marc Anthony, when she basically nearly quit her multi-million-dollar career entirely.
And it serves as such a powerful case study for human behavior. We so often see these larger-than-life figures as untouchable.
Oh, for sure. Like they're immune to it all.
Right, somehow immune to the kind of everyday heartbreak the rest of us go through. But the sources we are looking at today reveal a completely different reality.
They really show us the invisible machinery of survival.
Exactly. When your personal life shatters into a million pieces, how do you keep the professional machine running? How do you keep showing up?
It forces us to ask how that survival mechanism kicks in when you are literally standing under stadium lights.
So let's put the listener in that exact moment.
Yeah, picture this. It is March 6th, 2026. You are sitting at the Coliseum at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas.
It's an incredible venue.
Huge. And J.Lo is right in the middle of performing her massive up-all-night residency. The lights are glaring, the crowd is roaring, the energy is... It's exactly the kind of high-octane spectacle you would expect from one of the biggest pop stars on the planet.
High production value, endless stamina.
Right. But she does something entirely unexpected. She just pauses the music.
The more room shifts.
The stage quiets down, the dancers freeze, and she decides to share this surprisingly intimate story with thousands of people sitting in the dark.
And the way she introduces this story is highly revealing about how we use humor to deflect pain.
She started with a joke, didn't she?
She did. She actually starts by telling the crowd that after her third divorce, she was, quote, starting to get good at it.
Wow.
Yeah, and it gets the exact reaction she programmed it to get. A chuckle from the audience, a little tension release.
Classic entertainer move.
But then she immediately pivots. The performer's facade drops completely, and she looks at the crowd and says, seriously, that's not funny.
That pivot is so striking to me. She lets the audience in on the joke, lets them laugh at her expense, and then immediately shuts it down to force them to look at the actual truth of the matter.
She took control of the narrative right there.
She confessed to that arena that it was actually a remarkably dark time, and she was completely ready to give up on her career, her public life, all of it.
And to fully grasp the psychological weight of that statement, we have to look at what was happening in her life back in 2014.
Right. The context is everything here.
By the time her 7-year marriage to Marc Anthony ended, she was navigating the fallout of her third, highly public divorce.
She had previously been married to Ojani Noah in the late 90s and Chris Judd in the early 2000s, right?
Exactly. But this time was different because she had 2 toddlers in tow. Her twins, Max and Emmy, who were only about 2 or 3 years old at the time.
So the stakes were completely different than her previous splits.
Radically different. The sources highlight this profound sense of loss she described. She felt like she was losing her own identity while trying desperately to build this picture-perfect family life.
The pressure to maintain the brand while the foundation was cracking must have been immense.
It was. It led her right to the brink of walking away from a career she had spent decades building.
And for you listening right now, you might not be a global superstar selling out the Coliseum.
Probably not.
You definitely might not have paparazzi waiting outside your house to capture your worst moments, but you have almost certainly felt that overwhelming urge to just throw in the towel.
We all have those moments when life's script just completely tears itself up.
Yeah, and the effort required to just keep moving forward, to just get out of bed, feels entirely impossible.
It is a universal human experience. It's just magnified by a global spotlight in this case. When you're in that dark place, the central question always becomes, how do you pull yourself out?
Where do you find the anchor when the boat is sinking? Which brings us to the aha moment of this whole deep dive, because Lopez did what a lot of us do when we hit absolute rock bottom. She reached out for help.
A crucial step.
She called up one of her mentors, the late self-help author Louise Hay. And the conversation they had, which she recounted to the Vegas crowd, is so incredibly simple, yet structurally profound.
The beauty of the advice Hay gave her is that it wasn't deeply analytical.
No, not at all.
It wasn't about unpacking childhood trauma in that specific moment. It was incredibly practical, almost tactical.
Let me lay out the exact conversation she shared. She said, Hay asked her over the phone, Jennifer, you're a dancer, right?
A simple yes or no question.
And Lopez obviously said yes. Then Hay asked, when you're learning a dance and you get the steps wrong, what do you do?
I'm setting up the metaphor.
And Lopez gave the most natural, ingrained answer she could possibly give. She said, I just keep going until I get the steps right.
And then Hay delivered the core takeaway that would become her lifelong mantra. She said, that's right, so always keep dancing.
Always keep dancing.
What's fascinating here is the psychological brilliance of that specific advice.
Break that down for us.
Louise Hay didn't give Lopez a complex cognitive behavioral framework to navigate her grief. She didn't hand her a 5-step grieving process or a reading list.
Right.
Instead, she used Lopez's own innate expertise, which is dancing, as a metaphor for resilience. She translated overwhelming, paralyzing emotional turmoil into a physical action that Lopez already knew exactly how to execute.
Wait, let's dig into that pathway of competence idea for a second. Are you saying that when our emotional brain is completely flooded by something like a divorce, we literally lose access to complex decision-making?
Yes.
And relying on a repetitive physical skill acts as a sort of neurological override?
That is precisely the mechanism at play. In cognitive terms, when the amygdala is hijacked by intense stress or grief, your executive function drops.
You literally can't think straight.
You can't process complex emotional strategies. Hay bypassed the overwhelmed grieving part of Lopez's brain and tapped directly into her established neural pathways of mastery.
That makes so much sense.
When you feel entirely out of control in your personal life, anchoring yourself to a process where you have absolute mastery, where your body knows what to do even if your mind doesn't, that can be incredibly grounding.
It really is like muscle memory for the soul. She took this massive abstract pain of a family breaking apart and shrunk it down into something Lopez could physically understand.
A misstep in a routine.
Exactly. You don't quit the whole stadium show because you missed an 8 count. You just pick up the beat and keep moving.
And we know the heartbreak was severe enough to warrant that kind of extreme cognitive bypass.
Oh, definitely.
The Grazia magazine article we have in our stack is crucial for understanding the incredibly toxic environment she was trying to heal in.
They went deep into the psychology of it.
They really did. The piece explores the intense psychological toll of going through a devastating breakup when the whole world is literally watching and commenting on it. They describe a phenomenon that clinical psychologists often refer to as emotional whiplash.
Emotional whiplash. That paints quite a picture.
It does.
I mean, think about it. Have you ever had to smile through a massive presentation at work on the exact same morning you went through a devastating personal breakup?
It's excruciating.
That intense disconnect between your face and your feelings is exactly what Grazia is talking about, just magnified by a million for someone at her level of fame.
It requires an immense amount of emotional labor to maintain a poised, put-together public persona while you're navigating chaotic private pain.
Smiling on the red carpet while your life is in shambles.
Psychologists note that this disconnect, projecting untouchable strength while secretly falling apart in your dressing room, actually delays the healing process significantly.
Because you aren't processing it in real time.
Right. It heightens anxiety, and it creates a profound sense of isolation because your external visible reality does not match your internal felt reality in the slightest.
But according to the sources, Lopez didn't just rely on a catchy mantra about dancing to magically cure that whiplash.
No, a mantra isn't enough on its own.
She actually utilized a very specific, tangible toolkit to cope with the reality of her day-to-day life. She leaned heavily into therapy, meditation, and journaling.
The core pillars of cognitive recovery.
And she worked aggressively on boundary setting. And importantly, she funneled all of those raw, unfiltered emotions into creative projects. In 2014, she even released a book titled True Love that chronicled this transformative 2-year journey.
That book is a highly scrutinized piece of this puzzle. It was her attempt at a very public journey of self-reflection and rediscovery following the split.
I have to play the skeptic here, though. You call it a journey of self-reflection, but let's be real. We have a piece from the Laney gossip column in our sources from when that book was first announced.
Ah, yes, the gossip column reaction.
The columnist was super skeptical, joking that nobody complains about looking at pictures of J.Lo, heavily implying people were just going to buy it for the glossy visuals rather than any deep psychological revelations.
It's a very cynical take.
Is writing a highly curated celebrity memoir actually a therapeutic tool, or is it just good PR disguised as healing?
It is a fair question, and often it can be both. But from a purely psychological standpoint, reclaiming the narrative is a vital coping mechanism for trauma.
Reclaiming the narrative.
Yes. When your personal failure is being dissected by gossip columns and tabloids, you are entirely stripped of your agency. Writing a book, even a glossy celebrity memoir, is a way of taking the pen back.
Okay, that makes sense.
It allows the individual to organize their chaotic feelings into a linear narrative that makes sense to them. So regardless of Laney Gossip's skepticism about the buyer's motives, the act of writing it served a vital grounding purpose for the author.
Taking the pen back. I like that. And another massive priority for her during this time, taking the pen back on her family's narrative, was protecting her kids.
Absolutely paramount.
The twins, Max and Emmy, are 18 now, and the sources point out they've had a very atypical childhood, bouncing between New York, Florida, and California.
A highly transient lifestyle.
But during the heat of the 2014 divorce, Lopez emphasized complete, age-appropriate transparency with them. She told them, "I promise you, this is a difficult time, but you're going to see that I'll come out the other side stronger and better."
That kind of emotional availability is so important when children are involved in a high-profile family shift. By promising them she would come out stronger, she wasn't hiding the pain or pretending everything was perfect.
She was being real with them.
She was actively modeling resilience for them. She was giving them a real-time roadmap for how to handle adversity when it inevitably shows up in their own lives.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because as much as this is a story about internal healing and family dynamics, it is also a story about external judgment.
The public court of opinion.
Healing in private is one thing. Doing it when millions of people are leaving comments on your most vulnerable moments is entirely different. When that Vegas clip hit the internet, the comment section was an absolute war zone.
The divide was stark, and honestly, it's a fascinating reflection of our broader culture.
On one side, you had severe, unfiltered criticism. We are talking major eye rolls, people commenting things like, "nothing to brag about," and begging her to, quote, "please give it up."
So incredibly harsh.
One commenter even brought out the old Hollywood comparisons, likening her to Elizabeth Taylor and saying she marries and divorces like eating potato chips.
Just rapid-fire dismissals of a genuinely vulnerable moment.
And then on the entirely opposite end of the spectrum, you had fans fiercely rallying behind her. You saw comments like, "our Jen is not a quitter."
Cheering on her resilience.
Exactly, cheering her romanticism and her willingness to try again despite the public humiliation.
Regardless of where anyone stands on her personal life, and to be clear, our sources today aren't about judging her relationship history either way. What's fascinating is how the public uses a figure like her as a mirror.
Say more about that.
The comments tell us way more about our own discomfort with vulnerability than they do about her actual life choices.
That is such a good point.
That is the crucial takeaway from the social media reaction. We seem to be incredibly quick to either aggressively dismiss a celebrity's pain, often because we operate under the false assumption that their massive wealth and elevated status somehow insulate them from real human suffering.
Which is obviously not true.
Or we swing the completely opposite way and fiercely defend them as if they are our personal friends.
Parasocial relationships at their peak.
Exactly. When a celebrity shows a real crack in the armor, it makes the public very uncomfortable. The harsh comments, the comparisons to eating potato chips, that is society's way of distancing itself from the very real, very messy reality of sequential heartbreak.
Wow.
If we can turn her pain into a punchline, we don't have to empathize with the terrifying reality that love sometimes fails no matter how hard you try.
It is so much easier to write someone off as a punchline than to acknowledge the genuine, complicated pain of a family breaking apart.
It really is.
But the beautiful thing about this specific case study is that the story with Marc Anthony didn't end as a punchline or in permanent bitterness.
No, it didn't. And that speaks to the much bigger picture of post-traumatic growth and successful co-parenting.
The sources make it abundantly clear that today their relationship is highly amicable. They have explicitly stated there is no ill will toward each other.
Which takes a lot of work.
They've somehow figured out how to navigate their incredibly unconventional, globe-trotting lifestyles and still prioritize their kids' well-being above their past romantic grievances.
And a really striking detail from the sources is how they actually managed to repair that fractured
It
relationship.
wasn't just time passing, right?
No, it wasn't just the sheer passage of time. It was quite literally musical healing.
I love this part.
In 2017, they collaborated extensively on Lopez's Spanish-language album, Por Primera Vez. Lopez herself has stated on the record that working on that project together actually repaired the parts of their relationship that had been deeply broken by the marriage and subsequent divorce.
That's incredible.
It forced them to communicate as artists, which eventually made them friends again.
Which ties right back to her 2014 coping toolkit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How so?
Funneling the chaotic emotion into creative projects, she literally used her art to rebuild a burned bridge with her ex-husband.
That's a great connection.
And the sources note she has also publicly credited Anthony with building her confidence as a singer during their marriage, reminding her of her vocal talent when the industry made her doubt herself.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the relevance of this 2014 survival story to her current life becomes incredibly clear.
Because it's happening all over again.
This isn't just a nostalgic look back at the past. It is the exact psychological framework she is actively using to survive her present.
Right, because the timeline brings us right up to the present day. Lopez recently filed for divorce from Ben Affleck in August 2024.
And in a recent sit-down with Interview Magazine following that filing, she was remarkably candid about this latest split.
She really was.
She didn't put on the bulletproof vest. She admitted to feeling sad and desperate over the breakup. But crucially, she also recognized that the split was, in her own words, exactly what I needed to continue to grow.
So the mantra completely holds up a decade later. The advice Louise Hay gave her over the phone in 2014, keep dancing, is exactly the mindset that is carrying her through the reality of 2024 and 2026. She is still experiencing the sudden rhythm changes, the brutal missteps, the overwhelming public scrutiny, but she hasn't stopped the routine.
She is applying the exact same cognitive bypass to survive this current wave of emotional whiplash.
It demonstrates a profound level of internal consistency. The music changes, the dance partners change, the stages get bigger or smaller, but the fundamental commitment to keep putting one foot in front of the other remains entirely intact.
It's a testament to the tools she built back then.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? The core insight from this entire stack of sources is that resilience doesn't have to look like invincibility.
Not at all.
It doesn't mean you don't feel sad or desperate or ready to just lay down and give up. Whether you are navigating a public divorce heavily scrutinized by the media, or a quiet, private failure at work, or in a relationship that absolutely no one else even knows about, resilience often looks incredibly simple.
It's just about the next step.
It looks like returning to the steps you know. It looks like finding the one single thing you know how to do well and trusting the process of relying on that muscle memory until the rhythm of your life finally comes back to you.
This raises an important question, though.
Yeah.
We've spent this entire deep dive discussing the undeniable power of keeping changes, dancing through the rhythm changes and the missteps.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful, highly effective survival strategy that has clearly kept her career and her family afloat. But it leaves you with a final thought to mull over for your own life, something that builds on what we've learned from these sources today. What if the ultimate form of resilience isn't just stubbornly repeating the steps to the same old dance, but realizing you actually have the power to walk completely off the stage, change the music entirely, and choreograph a life where you are dancing solely for yourself without needing an audience at all?